sure, 'cause I wasn't.
Alrighty. Welcome.
Welcome.
We'll have a hymn by Whitney and Brian, after which I'll give the opening prayer.
Already did.
And then
I just.
I'll cross it out. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
We're good. I do it at the beginning of the video.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Usually it's like right when he's hitting record.
So sometimes it doesn't pop up.
Okay,
Sorry. So
women on beauty.
women on beauty.
What power do these women claim to have? The same, if not more, but the same as men. And they are fighting against the popular belief at the time that women were inferior to men and that their beauty was only a means to an end to get married, and then after that they were useless to society. They're fighting against that notion. And also the fact that the women need to rely on men. They wanted women to be more reliant and be better contributors to society. And what's Wollstonecraft? Wollstonecraft. One of her beliefs was that the worst thing that could happen on trying to make women equal was that a bunch of women would be given better lives, and it was a chance for men to prove if they were going to be on the, how do you say, no, it's like misogynist or whatever, or it's like where it's they're like backwards thinking or super macho thing. What's that called? There's a word.
Yeah.
I've never said it before. I've only read it. Masculinity, machismo. So it was just like basically like if there's people that still believe that the men were better than women, that the worst thing that could happen on making women equal is they could prove themselves right, but they're not going to because everybody's just as smart. So yeah, so that's some of the talking points that we're going to be talking about in this 30-minute, 15-minute thing.
I think some of the powers that women claim to have in Wollstonecraft's in chapter 2, she kind of just like lays it all out there that like women could have power, but they're being like pretty much undermined by men, and because of this like undermining that they're doing, it's just ruining future generations of education. That men like promoted a certain education that didn't allow women to like gain a solid education. And like the education that we have now is an education that allows men and women to receive an education at the same level, like a public school system that's actually free, which is which if people from then looked now at our education system, they would think, wow, they're so lucky. But she just thinks that the undermining of men is pretty much just like a domino effect. If like women can't get an education, they're gonna go down.
Yeah, I think it's important, as Wendy had talked about, with the not being better, but making sure that the self-worth and value is found, because in her writings it talks about just kind of what would happen if women tried to outprove themselves in comparison to men. It's not about overcoming or showing that they're better. It's just about showing and getting to the point of equality. And that's what's needed, is to break this stigma and stereotype that women aren't capable or aren't able to do certain things, or just because of culture and society where they have been placed, that they can't break that just because that's where they've always been. And so I feel that she does a good job at showing that and going into depth on how, here's weaknesses, here's strengths, but we need to make sure that they are not dominating over men and men are dominating over women, though, that equality is truly established.
One of the points that she makes is that women, not being given an education, were forced to kind of live underneath somebody else's rules, or like what society had kind of like branded them to do or earmarked them to do, because they were incapable of some higher level thinking, because they didn't have the education, or they weren't given the opportunity to be educated and receive instruction on how to go through this higher level thinking. She compared that to soldiers who were told just to do like follow their orders and not understand why. That it wasn't their job to understand why. And I think kind of just during this whole time period, a lot of people were kind of against that notion that people weren't allowed to understand why or what they were doing, and they were just expected to do it because that was their job. And she's comparing that to women, that women needed to be able to be a part of the decision making process, to be able to use higher level thinking, or to higher level decision making, and do all that kind of stuff, because that's fair and would enable them to contribute more to society.
With Wendy,
I do have another thing to say about this point.
I'm kind of going to move on.
Okay.
So
About the beauty, the next question. Just the next question on the to talk about. How is beauty a benefit or a hindrance for women in these writings? Something that she talked about in chapter 3 was like, she pretty much said that, I don't know, in my opinion, the only thing that men have to women is their strength. But in like that time period, there was nothing really that men did like to show their strength. Like they weren't ever really called upon things to like use like their ultimate strength to like, whereas today I feel like there's like bodybuilding competitions and like
female bodybuilding competition.
Yeah. Well, now, but yeah, I feel like men like have more like ways to like show their strength. Whereas like, I don't know, but she's talking, she pretty much just says like bodily strength is like the only thing that men have to women, and whereas like every other thing should be equal, like we should be able to get an equal education, so that because as a woman, even if they were just to be a mother, they need to be able to educate their children. And but I just think that that's like for men the beauty, like whereas beauty kind of comes in strength. But for how is beauty a benefit or a hindrance? She's kind of talking about how she doesn't really touch on beauty. Well, what I remember.
with the I guess not about the per se physical beauty of it, but kind of a line in here that in chapter 3 that I liked a lot when talking about the equality of it. It said that what is this, stanza 23 or paragraph 23? It says, "Let not men then in the pride of power use the same arguments that tyrannic kings and venal ministers have used, and fallaciously assert that women ought to be subject because she always has been. And women, it is true, obtaining power by unjust means, by practicing or fostering vice, evidently lose the rank which reason would assign them, and they become either subject slaves or capricious tyrants." Because I feel that it's a double-edged sword, because we need to make sure we break that stigma and show that there is equality in the fact that they are capable in their sphere and everyone is capable within their own sphere. Some people are going to be stronger than others. Some people are going to be more eloquent than others. Some people are going to be more artistic than others. But if you try to take that anger or that envy or whatever it may be, that driving force to put down another person, you actually in turn become enslaved to it, as you know, that they either object themselves to as slaves or capricious tyrants. By trying to undermine men, then they in turn become that situation. So they just end up becoming enslaved to what they're trying to avoid. Cruel irony. And so even though it's not about beauty, though, just the fact of obtaining that equality. So, yeah.
But she does talk about she does kind of talk about the physical beauty, not very much, but she kind of like, I feel like she kind of foreshadows to like being like having to compete for men's attention as a woman, and like how the way of competing was how they looked. And so once they competed, it was kind of like beauty could be like, yeah, you could get a man's attention, but really it was just like them sitting around looking pretty. Like it was just, I don't know. I think she kind of portrayed beauty as a hindrance to a woman, like if that was like their end goal. But that was just.
I believe it was in chapter 2 that she also talked about using beauty almost as a weapon, though. Even though it could be a hindrance, she also talks about how they can use that to obtain. What was that in chapter 2? Maybe I'm going crazy. I don't know. But I feel that with beauty, women are able to use that as a hindrance, use it as a tool to their own power, but then it also can be a hindrance because some people just will not take someone that's really pretty seriously.
Yeah.
But then there's also women who will manipulate because of beauty.
And this is like kind of just away from her writing, but there's a company here, the One Ocean Diving. Do you know them?
Ocean.
So Ocean,
Yeah.
Okay, what would you say about Ocean? She's gorgeous.
Yeah, no, she's really
drop
pretty.
dead gorgeous. She's a model. And so she says it's really hard because she's very educated and she's very smart. She has like I don't know what, I know she has like a master's or doctorate in animal behavior, but she did do modeling as well. And she says that it's hard sometimes because people don't take her seriously, like when she's talking about the things that she knows, but her initial, like before she starts talking, the people initially kind of just see her as like kind of like an empty brain and just kind of like ditzy. And she says it really bothers her sometimes because she's like, she feels that her beauty is not that it's hindering her, but like because she's appreciative to her beauty. But I just remember I have a good friend who works with her, and she said that it's frustrating to her because of her beauty and how people don't. The first thing it's like, because that's what you wear around. You wear your beauty at first, but then people get to know you through like you like whether they like search like the things that you know, or I don't know. But I think that's interesting that it's still kind of applicable today.
That's a good point. That's a good example of that's really true.
I would go shark diving if I were you. I would.
It's so awesome. You need to do it. Definitely worthwhile.
So what question?
Yeah.
I kind of forgot.
Sorry, I kind of ranted.
No, I thought that was a
Good.
perfect example. I thought that was a spot on example.
Are women? So the next question is: are women portrayed as inferior to men in these writings?
They're portrayed as that's like the social norm at the time,
Yeah.
but it's not what is right. It's kind of like her essay is kind of like a dare to like let us prove you guys right or wrong, and she's pretty confident that she's gonna prove them wrong. But she's like, one of her arguments is like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? It's just gonna be the same that it already is. And going back to your quote that you read about the tyranny of kings and everything, that's something that socially in this time period people are moving away from. That just because there'd always been kings and there'd always been tyrants, that's just the way that it had to be. They're looking more into democracy, and they're looking more into fairness, and to having elected government, members of parliament, and all those kinds of things. And the women she wanted women jump on that and for them to have a say in society and to be able to be part of that process and to be not just because men had always been in charge and men and women had always relied on men, that isn't something that should always be done just because it had been done.
And I think that that's something that in the poem that by Anna Barbald. I don't know how to say it. But anyway, she just in the opening of her poem, she says, "Yes, injured women, rise, assert thy right. Women too long degraded, scorned, oppressed." So I think she recognizes that women have been degraded in they're portrayed as inferior, but she's like, you know what, get over it, you can do something about it. I think that's something that, the title of her poem is The Rights of Women, so it's kind of you already know kind of what you're getting into once you start reading it, and she kind of just goes on and she's telling women what they should do, you don't just sit around and kind of have a pity party, but if you want to do something about it, you can if you want.
No, it's with the combination of making sure to stand up for what is right and having a firm foundation on what your beliefs are and not being pushed around because of those things, as well as making sure as is said in chapter 2 at the very last sentence on paragraph 51, when speaking about women and all the different qualities they should have and how they should be defined with men, we read, "She will not model her soul to suit the frailties of her companion, but to bear with them. His character may be a trial, but not an impediment to virtue." So I like that because it's saying that, you need to cooperate, you need to work together, but you shouldn't let someone define who you are and define your personality traits. And someone I've been thinking of actually in history is Queen Elizabeth I. She never married. She's known as the Virgin Queen. And because she was the daughter of King Henry VIII, who had his wives beheaded and killed. And so Queen Elizabeth grew up with her mom, Anne Boleyn, being beheaded with a double-handed French sword. Then watching her father change religion so he could divorce his wives and have multiple wives. So she just watched the wickedness of a man. And so when she became queen, she decided to never marry because she knew that a man, although may love her at first, would be tempted or would eventually hopefully try to avoid becoming like King Henry VIII, take over. And she just wanted to bring peace to her people, where she saw what could happen when it didn't. So Queen Elizabeth, though, was stalwart and very strong. She was when England at a very impoverished time, took down one of the largest Spanish armadas ever created to that point in history, even though their army was so weak and they didn't have a whole lot of money. And she was a very strong woman that brought England back up, yet at the same time, she wasn't tyrannical. And so she was able to balance, I'm a woman and I have to assert myself in this male-driven world. And she had to prove a point. But she was never demeaning to men because her right-hand man, her counselor and her alma mater and her companion, who talked to her about everything and guided her, she held his values so high, but he was still a man. But at the end of the day, it was still her word that went because she was queen. So I find that she's a very good example in history of balancing both power, but also peace.
I feel like I watched a movie about that.
The Golden Age?
Probably.
Phenomenal movie. Or Queen Elizabeth in the 1990s. She's both. Both.
Yeah.
Keep watching.
I think, what is and the next question, it says, unless you guys have something else. Okay, it says, do women need to rely on men in these writings? And in this one, in the poem, she is very clearly a woman doesn't need to rely on a man because she says, be more than princes' gifts. So she's women sometimes are just a gift to a man. They're kind of just given as a gift. from their father to, I don't know. But yeah, so for Anna, or I think that's her name. For Anna, yeah, she says that that they don't need to rely on men, but as that they have been in the past.
I feel with Wollstonecraft, I don't know. I feel she's kind of having a battle with it in the sense that she recognizes that that both man and woman need each other, but because of the era and the time, she struggles with saying that, because that would impede or elude that women are in need of a man when she's trying to show that women aren't defined by a man. So it's a fine line that she's walking in. And where I feel that comes from a lot is this is in chapter 2. We read there that I love man as my fellow, but a scepter, real or usurped, extends not to me unless the reason of my individual demands my homage. It appears to me necessary to dwell on these obvious truths because females have been insulted, as it were, and while they have been stripped of the virtues that should clothe humanity, they have been decked with artificial graces that enable them to exercise a short-lived tyranny. And so just saying that it's this just constant game of cat and mouse when it shouldn't be that way, because they're trying to figure out how to balance it, but one is given power and one power is removed from, when the power should be equally yoked amongst them. And I just feel you can just feel that just stress in her voice, trying to show equality, but without making women still seem weak and men seem terrible, but still acknowledging the fact that women have been placed in an image of weakness and incapable, and men are placed in situations of being powerful.
That's true.
Just feel she's frustrated. Rightfully so. Any closing words? Well, once again, thank you for tuning in. Have a wonderful evening. Until next time.